trip! Let me show you how to plan an epic family road trip. Over the past 5 years, my family, which includes 2 little kiddos and 1 old dog, have done 8 cross-country road trips. And in the process of doing those 8 cross-country road trips, I have come up with a system for planning epic family adventures. The first and most important rule is plan to stay in really cool places. You never want to stay in a roadside hotel. The key to making them fun is staying in fun places. It takes a little more planning to do it that way, but it also makes it so much more fun. We try to always stay someplace that is indicative of the area that we're staying. So say if we're out west, we're staying on a dude ranch. If we're in Louisiana, we're staying on a plantation. If we're in Tennessee, we're in a log cabin. We've stayed in all sorts of places. Everything from a vintage Airstream to a treehouse, which wasn't our best stop, to a working cattle ranch and a working cheese dairy farm. It makes it so fun for the kids and so entertaining and educational. And that's where the magic happens. And that's where it takes a little magic to plan. So let me show you how I plan our epic road trips so you can go on one too. Okay, glasses on. To plan my trips, the first place I go is Google Maps. And I want to put in my starting spot, so Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know why my caps is on. Okay, and it will map Atlanta. Then I'm going to go down here and click on directions. And I'm going to put in my ending destination. So for us, it was always Pacific Palisades. So let's put in Pacific Palisades. And because I'm going to, let's say, start in Atlanta and end in the Palisades, click on this little guy and just switch the order. So you can move the order all around. Now, what you've got is the most direct route between point A and point B. But that's not the most fun route, let's admit that. So we've always done a different route every single time. So all 8 trips have been different routes, staying different places. And the way I do that is I start with my start and stop spot, and then I plug in any places that we know we want to go along the way. So we usually, when we're heading back to California, we'll swing by the Cinda Bee factory. So that's one stop that we do repeat. So let's just go ahead and plug that in to kind of get us in the right direction. Okay. And then I'm dying to go stay at the Under Canvas Mount Rushmore. Oh, that'd be so fun. So let's go ahead and plug that in. We love everything that Under Canvas does. And the Mount Rushmore camp is supposed to be amazing. We've stayed at a few of their other camps and they were fantastic. Okay, so now we have a kind of a rough guide of how we're going to drive. Now we need to find really cool places to stop. And this is where it gets tricky. Now, we, like I said, like to stay someplace that is indicative of the area so that it helps educate the kiddos. But we also like to stay at a mix of places because Mama likes luxury and Mark likes crazy and the kids like a farm. So we try to find at least one of all of those. And if there's friends along the way, we'll stay with them too because that just makes any trip more fun. So given what we know right now, we need to break this drive down into segments. I have found over the years that the most we want to drive any given day on a cross-country road trip is 500 miles. So I try to find an interesting place to spend the night every 500 miles or less. Now, if we were doing a loop, like we did a California loop in our camper van, and we weren't trying to cover as much distance, we would make that much shorter. So like 200, 250 miles is probably the ideal driving distance if you're just doing kind of a fun road trip. You're not trying to get across the country. But if you're trying to move across the country, max out at 500 miles. So now we got to find our stops every 500 or so miles along this path. The first place I usually look, because it's me and I'm planning and I like the luxury, is for the fine resorts. So Relais and Chateau is my fave for schwanky resorts, and they have like kind of the iconic places that it's fun to stay at. So I'll usually start there and see if there are any on our path. And it looks like this is Utah and this is Montana. I don't think we're gonna make it to Montana, although I'm dying to go to those dude ranches out in Montana. Paws Up and what are the other ones? Triple Creek? I don't know. Those would be really fun. But it looks like Utah and Montana are our only spots for that. And maybe we could hit this one in Chicago, but that's usually my first stop. My second stop is Tablet Hotels. Tablet Hotels has a curated selection of really interesting properties around the world. So not necessarily the most expensive schwanky, but the most interesting. So sometimes, oops, let's cancel that. Sometimes they are really affordable. Sometimes they're really expensive, but they're always interesting, and I always trust Tablet Hotels. So that's the second place I check. Then once I've kind of found if there's any on our route that are in those spaces, that's when you kind of have to start dialing it down into the more adventuresome types of accommodations. And my favorite places to check for those are Glamping Hub. Glamping Hub has glamping spots like cabins and tents and yurts. They also have a lot of the farms that we found to stay at. The other spot that I check is Hip Camp. Hip Camp is private property that people let people camp on. And it's really awesome when you're in an RV or a camper van. I should do a whole video on that. But you can also use it when you're in your car because they have filters. So if you go here, you can check. Obviously, we're going to need toilets. And there's options that are not just for tents and RVs. And when I book via Glamping Hub and Hip Camp, I make sure I read all the reviews because the best places we've stayed, I think, have come off of both of these sites, but also the weirdest, craziest, sketchiest places we've stayed have come off of these sites. So read the reviews. Speaking of reviews, my other go-to spot is TripAdvisor. So TripAdvisor has amazing reviews on every sort of accommodation. They also have great tips for where to stop along the way. I could do a whole video on how to plan your day while you're driving, but you want to make sure that you have vetted every place that you are going to let your family sleep in, because if you're like me, you're a little particular, you want it to be awesome. So those are my go-to spots to look for places. And then what I do is I go down here to where it says details. See right here? Click on details and it's going to show you the miles between our preset locations. So I know between Atlanta and the soon-to-be factory is 656 miles. That's too far for us in one day. So what I'm gonna do is I'm looking at my map over here and I'm gonna try to find someplace short of that to stay for the night. So someplace shy of Indianapolis. Last time we did this route, we actually found a really awesome pool house. I know that sounds crazy, on a farm that I think I got through Airbnb. I'll check. Airbnb and VRBO are also great places to check. But it was awesome. They had a pool. It was a really cool cabin or man den, but it was a great place to spend the night. Kids swam and ran in the fields, loved it. So I'll find some place around there. Then I know from Soon-to-be, the factory, to Mount Rushmore is 1,090 miles. Definitely need to break that up. So we need to look for someplace outside Chicago. We might need 2 stops in between Soon-to-be and Mount Rushmore. So you kind of start drilling into the area. So like if I'm looking for a spot, let's say in this part of South Dakota. So we drill in and I just start plugging in town names. So if I know that I need to be stopping in this general area, for instance, I'll go to all of my favorite little spots. So Glamping Hub, Hip Camp, Airbnb, VRBO, all of those spots, and see what is available in this general area. Usually the best ones are off the main highways, so don't be afraid to go off the beaten path because that is where the adventure is. And just keep repeating that process of finding a really cool stop every 500 or less miles until you get to where you're going. So that's my system for planning out the trip in advance and picking out all of our really cool places to stop. I have a whole different system for planning out our days while we're in the car to keep everybody entertained and happy. I'll do another video on that, but this gets you started. So start big, use Google Maps, work your way down, go visit all my favorite websites and have fun. I hope that that all made sense. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. If you want to see more of our road trip adventures, you can check them out on our YouTube channel. I'm working on editing more videos as we speak to post them from trips from years past. And you can see what we're currently up to on our Instagram account at the Boomershines. So I really hope this has inspired you to take your family on an epic road trip adventure. They are so fun. Just do a little planning in advance and you are gonna make some magic memories. And if you do it, let us know, because I'm dying to know who we've inspired and who we've helped. So have fun, have an awesome adventure, and remember, it's not the destination, but the journey, and that is especially true on a road trip.